treasures withdrawn for Britain's colonialist history are stored in museums through the nation. But as times changing, how do such institutions transactions in the susceptible question of the humane remnant in their collections? In Oxford, the Pitt Rivers Museum, based in the gallery of a Victorian general, August Pitt Rivers, holds on 2,000 such specimens. These flesh components were driven behind to Britain through its imperial power, in slight anxiety for the human beings of whom they'd been despoiled. The Pitt Rivers is one of several UK institutions who are by blood pressure to de-evaluate the lot colonialist prizes in their collections. We can't destroy story, but we can be a portion of the trial of medicinal, says Laura van Broekhoven, CEO of the museum. She says the trial is on possessing an outdoor talk in such struck. With the fleeting of the Humane Tissues Act 2004, law how weakened the rules concerning the driving of flesh components, the Pitt Rivers has refundable 22 such objects. It's barely a flooding of returns to the ex-colonies, but it's a begin. The Pitt Rivers is now negotiations the back of indigenous humane remnant to Australia, and in May 2017 Maori remnant were presented above to the Museum of New Zealand Te Dad Tongarua. In several cases these items at first came to the UK since of adventurers who had protection to the College of Oxford. We've a lot of household protection among the college and the human beings of New Zealand how day behind to the at first pin among the Maori and UK voyagers, Drive van Broekhoven explains. While the at first UK sea vessels went to the region down there were human beings of Oxford, rich young naturalists who purchased themselves a location on the vessel how skipper prepare was navigation, and they driven objects there. She says the Maori society showed stability and devotion in receive them behind. His mission statement is to back remnant to their religious motherland as a tool of enabling the ancestors may be reassured and engulfed by their favorite ones. He says, Maori and Moriori generic remnant were undertaken out of the permit of their household, and so the repatriate trial allows for conciliation of history wrongs and misdeeds related in the arrive of Europeans in the southward silent. The museum has declared behind on 500 skeletal remnant of different institutions with 2003, and the transmission recent year of Oxford turned on 7 toimoko, that are mummified, tattooed heads of Maori descent. In May 2017 they were officially welcomed household by pedigree representatives and by the government officials, and located in a holy storage, named as a wahi tapu. They are just outdoor just to pedigree representatives in a straight genealogy connect to them. And which's happened to several of the Pitt Rivers remnant has been copied in another place. The UK Museum, that has more than rather than 6,000 humane remnant in its collections, has repatriated at low 18 objects to Tasmania and New Zealand with 2004. Ashley Jackson, Prof of Empire and War Story at SARS School, believes if the position was reversed, down there would be powerful ego in the UK. If a museum in Beijing or Harare had the remnant or burial insignia of an essential Tsar or metropolitan, down there'd be an huge motion to try and get them behind there, he says. The present quandary is downward to behavior in the colonialist time creature very various, he says. Lot human beings had an unusually proprietary type of the broad planet, presenting which lot would have seen as a high civilization detecting, pretending, archive, and earning things behind to Britain. He adds, down there must be an reason for a really humane attitude to insight why specific communities, groups, or domestic institutions wish to include these behind. They wish to rectify a story we had in lot ways assigned, and declared on, and spelled on in a way how might not include reflecting the true. But for Dr. Tiffany Jenkins, writer of Challenging Humane Remnant in Museum Collections, the meltdown of culture credibility, down there now seems to be a mess in regulation of which a museum's goal is. One day it gets implicated in society job, it's making thing lightly various, and I believe in a way betraying its expertise seeking an educational goal, she says. I'm inconvenient while they leave how since I believe the has go out of a searching for thing new to do them pertinent in the 21saint age. It moralises and apologizes quite rather than investigates and opening it upwards, the nice item on expertise and insight. The history is how it should be outdoor to all. Amongst the Pitt River's largest famous exhibits are the shrunken heads. The 10th Santiases were driven behind of the top Amazon by UK explorers in the deceased 19th age, and now live in a instance named Treat of Corpse Enemies. To do at Sansa the leather was remote, cooked and dry, the eyes and jaw close in clap line, the person blackened in colorant, and the chief beaded on a string. These trophies were created by the tribal who took their enemies' heads to show their bravery and revenge. We can't show a photo of them since the museum considers them susceptible material. To their descendants they are holy objects. But how doesn't definitely indicate they really be on screen at the museum, explains Drive van Broekhoven. She says she has speak to descendants of the Amazon tribes people, who had no issue any in the collections. They're in fact really joyful to see them on screen, she says. They see how as a presentation of their cultures and ambassadors for their cultures there. So in how feeling I don't definitely see the vault's discovery and draining as the just probable result of the trial. A connection up in Else Society took location in November, while Maasai representatives of Tanzania and Kenya attended the museum. They treated in curators to do certainly exhibits were properly marked and how they provided their civilization quite. Drive van Broekhoven believes incoming in the spirit of talk in concerned parties is essential. I can't see how we would differently advance, particularly as Oxford is a really world town, she says. In spite its complex history, Drive van Broekhoven insists the museum can yet say on our overall humanness. Down there's lot various ways of knowledge and creature, she says. Down there's so lot to find out of every some, and know of every some.